We've got a new month here, and you know what that means, the monthly vid. This is something you really should watch if you're an investor, even day trader, swing trader, because we're going to be covering, broader indexes, broader market, and then we'll also hone in onto a few specific names. That being said, this video will come out pretty late, so you can always skip to the end. However, monthly videos can last all month, or even, into next month, the month after this. So they will be valuable. That being said, SPY still just tuned to the highs. So if you remember, we called the bottom here, think, down they go, and then all the way up they go, broadening expansion. So you can draw this however you want, right? Drawing right to left, we would draw from this and we draw back. This would be our broadening formation here. So you can go something like this. So that's what we're working with, right? Nowhere near a 2 down on the month. However, then we jump into the week, right? A little different here. Lower lows, higher highs, boom, right to the penny. So now, right, we could become a 2-2 next week. I'm not sure what the futures look like. For now, they're firm. So, if they're not a 2-2 down and below last week's lows, doesn't matter to us. They're still going up. But that could kick in, right? SPY. Qs, you're going to see a very similar story across the month and the week. However, still very, very strong, right? We have no indication that the market's going to be going down unless we start taking last week's lows. That'd be the first way to do it. You can see maybe a 2-2 day Monday. We'll see. But this is your daily triangle Qs. So the way we say it, right? If it's going to go down, you're going to have to get out of the bottom of this. And if it's going to go up, you're going to have to take out, Friday's highs. So we'll see how they open up. The Dow Jones, see also, slight shooter on the week, right? But it's only bearish if we take it down. If not, still bullish. It looks something like this on the month here. Very similar to the rest, right? You'll see that hammer month and then boom, off to the races. And then the week, you're going to have something like this for next week. And then the day, you're going to see, if we go to 60, you might see it a little better, but you'll see ticks up, ticks down, and then we made some slight lower lows here. So this is what we're working with at this point. You also have some sub-triangle, really small broadening formation in here. IBM, we'll see on the month. So a little different, right? We go straight into all-time highs. So it's some slight high rise here. Now we're blasting through. And this is something you tend to see, right? They'll take the highs out, stop some guys out, and then if they're going to break out, you want to stay above that. Now, if they come back below and they take last month's lows, they might be the first ones to do it if things were weak. So we'll be aware of it. On the weekly basis, you won't see a broadening formation per se. You'll see mother bar, these 2 bars inside of these 2 bars, and inside of this bar. On the day, you see the big 3 in here. That is a broadening formation. So it's a little closer to firming up Monday. Oops. Which would give you something like this on the 60-minute. So you can see it here, the slight higher highs, ding. Right, and then here they expanded it, retested it, and expanded it some more. So looks something like that. There is your broadening formation as we see it on the 60s and your day. And the week is consolidating. We would also say you have sub-triangle right in here. That being said, let's go and take a look then. Gold, exhaustion of the buyers potentially. Now it's no reversal yet, right? But below last month's lows, 350 just about, that could bring them back in. So we'll be aware of that. Now, if we go to the week, right? If we go 322 up to start off the new month, that also could go back to all-time highs. So this is why we say, right? The next 2 is what matters, because if the week goes like this, takes last week's lows, then, maybe it starts puking, right? Now, let's say it gaps down slightly, takes last week's highs. Now it's potential rally back to the highs. So next week matters. At this point, that's what we got. If we go to the day, you'll see the broadening formation down, up, back down, and then sideways, down, sideways. You go to silver, same thing. So we called for silver many, many months ago. This was 2 years ago, but we called for silver to make all-time highs, and it did. So there it is, silver 48. Now the question is, exhaustion risk, is there any profit taking? And same thing, right? If we're going to blast through those highs, we would like to see them bring them down and then back through that first, ideally. That being said, not much change as far as the weekly broadening formation. It could become a reversal with gold next week, up though on the weekly. If we go to TLT, the bonds, you'll see the bonds, they have reclaimed some of the bigger levels. So you got some lower lows, some higher highs. So we'll see, right? Are they confirming next month, or are they coming back in? So far on the week, we'll see at this point. The week's closed out, so you don't got evidence per se, but it's closer to going down. So we will see. Not HLT. There's some other bonds you could look at, but I imagine they're somewhere similar. VIX going into next month would be a RevStrat 3122 to the downside. So that's good if both for, buyers and, if you're a seller, you could get a big outside month if we take last month's lows out and start going the other way with a rejection. So we're going to be watching that closely. And that's a, pretty neat thing. We'll see. As far as the daily, and nothing. If we go to then your ETFs, financials. So they did reverse last month in financials, but they were too strong to make the new lows. So at this point, we'd say financials, they did make lower lows, but they did not take out magnitude. So we go to the week, you see outside bar, gives you this daily broadening formation. So if come Monday, things firm up, maybe financials firm up, start going the other way. Discretionary, you'll see inside month. This is your Tesla, your Amazon, that type of stuff. They're already at all-time highs, but that'd be continuation after the buy here at 204 from our monthly vid calling the bottom. You would have an outside week hammer to trigger it. You can see they did gap them up in here. If we go to industrials, you'll see just jamming the highs. So we'll see if they keep going or not. The weekly, a little different. So you got the outside bar in here, which could give you broadening formation back down. You also have this scenario 3. So levels of reclaim would be like this. So if industrials take last week's lows, could be issues to start the month. I'm doing this off memory, so I might miss one. But healthcares. So we know on the quarterly basis, they're buying healthcares. So we like this. Here's your broadening formation. You got this come Monday. Utilities. You can see with the gold and silver, which is more, defensive type names. Utilities could become the 2-2 back through the previous range. So that's something you want to know. 2-2-2. Go to the week. They reversed and they continued. So you got a real seller in there because only a real seller tends to, come and sell and then come and sell some more. So we'll see. Can you come back through all those guys in the Utes? Energies, hammer month, XLE. So at minimum, last month's highs, and ideally, you'll see the big levels of reclaim in here. So get those monthly ones here. So you got monthly potential 2-2. But you're also going to see this slight lower low, slight higher high. So if that works, potentially energies, you start coming back through all these guys, like so. Now, the weekly inside week for energies next week. That's a good thing to know. Energy numbers come Wednesday. XOP, right? Maybe. We'll see. You already had the big reclaim level here, which we did discuss a good while ago. So when you look at XOP, just looking at it, we'd prefer to see it go higher. But you need a buyer to show up. So for now, it's chop, 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 chop. Bringing them back and forth in here. So we will see. Be nice if these energies gap down, buy or something. That'd be cool. OIH, a little different. Boom, outside month. So you can see they're buying OIH. Notice the quarter. Reverse last quarter, they're still buying OIH on the quarter. So going into next month, I like OIH above last month's highs, 291.09. If it is 291.08, I don't want to be long. So don't come and yell at me and say, oh, Alex is at 270. It's like, I told you, 1 penny matters. At least to us, it does. So we will see. That being said, I feel like I'm missing a few. Let's see, TAC. So TAC is blasting to the highs. It's blasting to the highs, semis. Just blasting to the highs. And if you recall our 2-2 week here, still good. So if you're a tech guy, we got you a nice 23%er up in here. Still going. Go check our video beginning of September. If we go to materials, these guys not doing too hot. Now, they did go 2-2 quarter down. And, materials has been in kind of a hotter sector with, precious metals, that type of thing. But they're selling this quarter. So we'll see if they come back and sell more, or if they want to go maybe take last month's lows out and then start ripping the other way with things like, MP and whatnot. Maybe. We'll see. But that being said, let's get into the specifics now that we've gotten through the boring stuff. And I'm going to be doing this live for you guys, so hope you don't mind. Again, these monthly videos last all month. So if you're like, I can't watch a 30-minute video, blah, blah, blah. don't worry. You got all month. You don't have to be there in day one, although that is good once you get those ones right at the beginning of the month. It can be fun. With that being said, what do we scan for? Well, we scan for our actionable signals, which look like inside bar. We got 81 names to take a look at. They look like two down. Oops. Look like two down. Hammer. We got 28 names to go and look at. They look like two down. Green. We got 55 names to look at. So you can see we got a good few in there. If we go two up and red. Oops. This is on a monthly basis. Oops. What am I doing? Two up and red. I got 100 names to go look at. So this could be fun. Shooter. You see 72 names. So you can also go to one, two down, hammer. And this will really weed them out. These are the ones we like to see. One, two down, and green. Right. Look for your rev strats to the upside. So we can take a look at those guys. Also one, two up and red. One, two up shooter. Three, two down green. Three hammer. Three shooter, etc., etc. So I'm going to go dive through those charts, not make you guys wait, and I will show you guys what I've found. Before we dive into the specific names, I wanted to add with the oil stuff, we also have US oil future, one, two down, two up, rev strat month. Or we could just say rev strat month up. So just adding that in quick. All right, everybody. So we're going to see the notes here, the gist, markets at the highs, some weekly reversals. If we open weak next week, no indication of a change in the market. Same old, buying the chips, buying the tech, that type of stuff. We do see gold and silver shooter months if they were to weaken up. Also, maybe 2 weeks back up as well. So we're still uncertain there. US oil, rev strat month up, pivot machine gun. This is something we want to know about, and I'll show you what that looks like. Looks like this, right? So if we're above last month's highs, US oil, we'd at least want to see 751. And then the question would be, can that go further? We know broadening formation exists up into 94.99 because of, you're going to see the outside bar that occurred in here, and it's going to be a big one. We got like a 6-month chart. So you can see because of this, these 4 bars are an outside bar to this bar. So if we were to firm up, going into end of the year, going into next year, it may look like that. With your energies. If we go to then the tech / simultaneous break trade, SATS is in the tech. It's been leading the market in here, up a couple 100% this year. Inside month above 80.22. Double inside week, 2-week inside bar here. And then the day, nothing. So we'll see. If we go to LSCC in the semis, inside month, momentum, hammer. And notice this one's not at all-time highs, so it's not as overpriced as everyone else at this point. So they could go higher to 100. That's something we would like to be aware of, which tells you SMCI. And SMCI, it's more of like a dip buy type situation here, but we will see inside week. So either side of this gets our attention. Now what I'd want to see is this. Can we take them out? Take them back up. It could be a couple pennies. It could be, $10. Doesn't matter to me. I'm interested to see if they want to keep going. If we go to app, you'll see the inside month. So this is one of those market leaders staying outside of the previous range. They're willing to pay up. So the question is how much? We are mother bar week. So you can set some alerts here. And we also have a scenario 3 on the week in here. So you got some reclaim levels that we can draw out like so. If we get to the day, you can see they're just up there. So we'll see what comes of it. And then we had energies. We have that sector XLE with the US oil looking similar, right? And then maybe the OIH should be the stronger of the bunch, at least into the 311 area. We'll then see the utilities sector. So simultaneous breaking utilities potentially here. That'll tell you AEE right here, the 322. We go to WEC, the 322. You go to AEP. Am I in replay mode? No. I'm not sure why I put that in there. I think there was another one I missed here. 1 second. Yeah, LNT, my bad. You got LNT, obviously AAP is not coming in, but LNT, shooter month in here. So maybe we see those guys reverse. I'm not sure what the commonality is between those three or if there is any commonality at all, but that is what we see. As far then as that goes, the laggard Meta, they're having some issues. So put out some earnings, seemingly they're not doing too good. Now, ideally, we would want to see them come down into these guys. We got the quarter. You see 322. We got some monthly pivot targets on the way down. So we'll look to take these guys out, or maybe, a dip buy if they reclaim this outside week. So this creates some important levels in the video, right? Above this, are we going up there? Right? Yes. So if we're above last week's lows, they're recovering. If not, expansion and things are coming back to the downside. If we go to high volatilities, you're going to see quantums. QUBT inside week. RGTI inside week. And when we look at this, right, it goes all the way up, and then it big, nice red candle, right? We pulled off the highs. It went 50% drop off the highs. Obviously, people are short. So now when we're looking at this, what we need to think is there still evidence of a buyer potentially? And what we'll see is this. So we go into the day, right? This is that month, week, quarter buyer. So this is that big institutional buyer in here, which can also be retail, right? If retail's willing to buy this up, then retail's willing to buy it up, and you got shorts closing their shorts out. So you can see buyer, and then sideways, buyer's gone, and then buyer comes back, boom. So we got an aggressive buyer in here. The question then is last week's highs and lows, right? So we're going to see, are we going to be aggressive enough to take out these guys or not? And if we do take the highs out, does it just come back in, right? Where it goes something like this, then we just start bringing them back in, or do we stay up there? So that's what we want to think. QBT, similar, right? Except we did have a nice big short seller in here. So it's unlikely to fully recover unless we can get above 1911 and stay up there. If it reclaims, they'd just be going right back to the downside. If we go to QBTS, we see very similar to RGTI, trading pretty much the exact same. And then IonQ, you see you got a short seller in here, definitely. Right, so we can definitely say this was a short seller. So if we're above that, right, you can really clearly see this seller is screwed above 65.50. So what does that tell us? IonQ break out above 65.50, that could be issues for the short seller. How do we gauge the magnitude of that? Well, we'd know that short seller, right, potentially gets blown out to 84 and then maybe even further. So we will see what comes of it. And I will set some alerts for that just for Monday to see if that ends up occurring. And then the energy trade, we already discussed a little bit, but MPC in there. We'll see the inside month. So notice big quarterly buyer. How do you identify it? Hammer month identifies the buyer. Boom. 2 month buyer still here. And then inside month, the buyer's still here as far as we know. So above 259, you could say 200 flat. We want to look for it to keep going to all-time highs, and 221.13. After that, maybe they blow out more shorts, maybe they don't. VLO, same thing. You can see big aggressive buyer, right? Compared to slight seller, slight buyer, slight seller, slight buyer, slight buyer, slight seller. Then boom, big buyer, right? Inside month now. Does that buyer want to buy more? You also got some inside weeks in there. And then this may confirm the energy trade. So not just, energy's oil, but energy's uraniums. So uraniums, you can see this big buyer. How do we identify them? Well, we identified them here. We did see them buy into the highs and then they take them to Pound Town. But then you see that buyer comes back, boom, right in here, and up they go off the hammer, right? And then you had outside bar, expansion, buyer comes back. So the question is, do they stick around, right? Now, if we look at the week, you'll see some slight triangle out to the downside like this. So on a daily basis, you can see how that changed. Now their buyer's back. Can we go back to the highs? Or do we reclaim, right, by changing that come Monday morning? Because we're a little closer to doing that, right? We'll see. If we go to CCJ in there, CCJ, they could reverse to the downside, right? But they are nowhere near taking this stuff out to the downside here. So this could be a name where, they consolidate and then they start taking off again. And we'll see. If we go to IMSR, this is a new one. It's HOND. You see HOND right after the name change, boom, right there's buying. They're like, oh, new company, right? And they're like, crap, we've already been buying this, get me out. So now the question is, does that buyer come back, right? They buy it and then they stopped out here. You can see it. They buy sideways, they stop out. We could go buy again, right? We'll see. Believe we looked at Oklo, maybe we didn't, but Oklo, very similar, right? You can see they buy sideways, they buy more sideways, right? It comes back in a little. So if you bought in here, ticks them out, right? But if you bought in here, you still don't have to sell. It's just sideways. So at this point, the question is going into next month, right? Are they going to reverse, take that out, and then maybe take this stuff out, this big quarterly guy that we see, or not? Or are we going to stay firm? If we go to some of the other names in here, we already went through all the important ones. So if you listen through that, now you're good to go. But for the rest of you guys, we got MPLX. And this could be a decent one for creating. And I'm going to turn this off and I'll turn it back on at the end. Let me know what you guys think about that indicator. I think it helps explain and show you guys what's going on. But if we go to MPLX, we see the RevStrat Hammer month. And you'll see this doesn't have a big target. So this would not be like, oh, I'm going to invest a ton of money in here. Not worth your time at all. But if you're going to buy option lottery tickets, right? This stock does not move on a monthly basis. Like this would be 5% 1 month. So these options IV have to be incredibly low. The only thing that you do have is earnings, right? But even then the IV is incredibly low. So maybe they gap it up. Maybe they rip through these pivots prior to earnings. We'll see. If we go to TTE, another lower volatility name, but you're going to see this is in the energies along with the previous MPLX in the energies. So not only do you have all these energy signals, you have some earnings coming out in that. But if we look here in TTE, got some pivots. So if the energies, right, if we see US oil rev strat, then we want to see TTE do it. And maybe MPLX, earnings starts it off. We'll see. CTRA. Also, a little bit closer to going to the upside. You got a big enough range here. It's just, does the buyer come back? Same thing though. Not the craziest investor type name unless you're looking at this and you're like, wait, maybe we got the yearly uptrend and then sideways and then they're going to keep going. Maybe you could look at it that way, right? But unless you're that guy who wants to see it and just go and hold it for a couple of years, not a good one to put a ton of money in. However, we could day trade this or swing trade some lottery tickets in here. Then we have in the consumers, New York Times. RevStrat month, however, stuck. Right? Completely, these two bars completely inside of this bar. So maybe, maybe not. Now on the week, we had this buyer come in here and then inside week. So maybe right above, you'd say above 57.68, we could look for pivot machine gun up into about 61. And we're not sure. If we go to PRU in the financials, closer to the 122 rev strat month, and you can see similarly inside bar measured or problem, mother bar problem. And this is why we're not, it's like meh, right? And people look at this and they'll be like, it's a setup. It's a setup. It's like, yeah, maybe it goes 6%. And then what? You're stuck in the middle still. Maybe there's a pivot machine gun, could change things. But this is in the middle of this, which makes this less interesting, right? If we go to team in the tech, a little more interesting. So notice we're at the bottom of the range. That's where we like to trade. Like here, or we could go like this. But we'll see the broadening formation here and we can measure the sides of the range. So big seller in here, buyer shows up. If we go to the lower time frames, you'll see that buyer shows up here. Question is, inside week team with earnings that were really good last week, supposedly, and then the RevStrat month team. So I really like this one because we've got all that lined up. So make sure that's at the top list so I don't forget myself. We already discussed the utilities. iNod. Big data. So it's a big data name. Be shooter month against these guys. Not sure if they're wrong on buying this. All I know is that That's what we see in a lot of big data stuff. Although it did pull off highs a little bit, right? It's still closing like Palantir, which is strong. Unless you're Meta, right? No good. We will see in the industrial sector, which if we go back, just to remind you, industrials, maybe RevStrat week, right? If this week kicks in, then maybe a seller shows up if we can get below the new month open. And that would change the quarter, which is right here around 153.35. So 2 week, maybe it changes that. We'll see. But that tells you UNP, if industrials are weak, this would take last month's lows. So that's Norfolk Southern. Top of the broadening formation, you can see a couple pennies higher. And then, if industrials are weak, closer to last month's lows. Now it is closer to a weekly reversal up, but we'll let the market tell us. At C, 322 month to the downside, we're going to see setting up like this. So if you're looking for a short trade or a position you could take, you can be below last month's lows. Ideally, when you look at this big bar, ideally below the half of that, then we can be short and look for this thing to continue. So maybe you get something like this. And that could be a good short trade to have on, just, if market ends up being weak anytime next month to hedge a little bit, right? We always play both sides. If we go to better healthcares, inside month in here, and you can see this big buyer showed up back in July. See right here, 11th of August, and then up they go sideways, up they go from our weekend vid a couple weeks ago. 42% now inside week, inside day. So we'll see inside week, inside day, inside month. Does that change anything, right? Simultaneous break of all those time frames together. Maybe if the healthcare is being firm as well. Now, market leaders, SATS in the tech, I think I already mentioned that, but yep, app in the tech, yep. And then we got a funny one for you, tip, just the tip here. So if we go to take a look, you'll see inside week, or actually, inside week shooter. It's a bond ETF and it's got a lot of pivots below. Now, I have no idea what this may or may not be correlated to, but what I do know is that's a pivot machine gun and it's a bond ETF. So we can almost guarantee those options are cheap if it has options. No idea if it does or not, but we will take a look at that, and I have some alerts set just to see if we do end up taking last month's lows or not. Because that could be a good 1 month lotto trade, 2 month lotto trade where you can just get some further out of the monies, or even just at the monies, which are really cheap. And if it goes fast enough through the pivots, those will go from low IV to really high IV, which is something we look for. Because when the market's kind of flat and then one of our signals breaks and causes a big move, the IV or the volatility increases. So the options price has to go up exponentially, which is really cool. So we'll see if that happens or not. That being said, that is your monthly video, our macro video, as we call it. The only thing I would like to add, which, it's getting so late at this point. These take a little bit for me to do because we're hitting the whole market. But the only thing I would like to add, which I'm not going to spend the time going through all of them, is if we go to the quarter, these are your leaders on the quarter, and we can filter out the ones that have no sector, just so we don't get those crazy ETFs and whatnot. But these are your leaders on the quarter to the upside. Anything over like 50% gains, like 30, 20% gains, right? That's where you want to be. So if you're gonna be buying these guys, right, if they can keep going, and what we can do is we can say, okay, greater than, let's say like 25% on the quarter, 55 names. That's your watch list, right? Just the strength. And this allows you to play just the strength and only play signals on that. So if you ever have trouble and you're like, I have too many signals, right? This is how we do it. So just make sure we're good here, go here. So we go on the weeklies, inside weeks. These are all the leaders that are going sideways inside bar setups, right? Double insides right here, BTDR. See, BTDR, probably a place to be looking, right? And I'll even add that to my list, right? There's so many setups in the world. Obviously, we can't track every single one, although we do our best. Let's add that in here. See if that, maybe it's a PMG down, who knows? But you can see how that works, right? Do whatever you want. If you go to, anything 2 down, these are the things that puked a little bit. Maybe you get a dip buy, right? That's how you want to think. That being said, if we go back, these are your leaders. We blow it up a little bit more. These are your leaders, take your screenshot. If you want to go do some digging in here, take your screenshot, go for it. There will still be some ETFs. I apologize. Remove those blanks just to make it better. There it is. And as we say, teamwork makes the dream work. So if you're going to do your homework, right, and you're going to start going through this stuff, looking at the charts, then what you can do is share it, right? That's all we are here to do. Do the teamwork, do the sharing, and get her done. If we go to the bearish side of things, here's some of your biggest losers. These are guys you want to be short. See, FI just wrecked. Biggest loser in the market that we have. They're going to be shorting anything, or if you're looking for, bigger investment opportunities, things that are pulling off the highs, could look at these for dip buys as well. So that is that for this quarter. As we get to the end of the year, we do have some things that we will be doing, so I can't wait to share those with you guys. But adios and have a good rest of your day, and let's make some good trades this coming month, guys. Let's do it.